The VIII presents Astonishing Adventures in Atomic Annihilation.
VIII here. When you think of Sanctuary Hills before total atomic annihilation, you probably think idyllic paradise. Everything here is so clean, so pristine. It's everything you need in a neighborhood. Beautiful yard, friendly neighbors, a drug lord, and is a really great place to raise a family. Something is wrong with this picture. Wonder what it is. That's right, we're talking drugs in this episode. Drugs, or chems as they're called in this game, are fairly commonplace in the wasteland. However, did you know that most chems were made pre-war? People who played Fallout already know what chems do. But if you don't know, chems can boost various stats to make you stronger, smarter, and more resilient. But there is a catch. Just like with real-world drugs, you can become addicted, and with addiction comes withdrawal, which damage your stats, thus making you weaker, at which point you could take more chems to alleviate those symptoms temporarily, or, unlike the real world, you could see a doctor and he can cure you for a fee. I usually choose not to do chems, mostly because it's a huge pain in the... Before I digress further, let's get back to the matter at hand. While you were living in Sanctuary Hills, there was a seedy underside. It wasn't apparent at the time the game started. However, after you leave the vault and see what's left of your once beautiful town, you can begin to explore, and one of the houses contains a functional computer labeled Ledger Terminal. After hacking the computer, the screen opens up and says, "We're in the business of happiness." Wink! Get it? 'Cause drugs? Don't do drugs. Here we have a list of places, then a list of names. Clicking on the names gives you details of what Dr. Feelgood thinks of the buyer and what Doc sells them. Some of the more notable people are the tinfoil hat wearing man named Baker, who buys Day Tripper, one for every day of the week. Day Tripper boosts charisma and luck, but lowers strength. The name comes from the Beatles song of the same name. It being the Beatles and all, the song likely has multiple meanings, one of them being LSD, but that doesn't match the chem's effects in any plausible way. Next on the list is Rosa. Rosa buys Buff Out. What it does is raise your strength and endurance while also raising your AP. It's comparable to real-world steroids. The thing about Rosa is that she is a widow with a teenage son. If you go down to the Red Rocket down the road, there's a computer that talks about her and her son fixing up a car. Which is weird, I didn't notice that the first time I went through. I guess even I'm gonna learn something this episode. Next on the list, I'm probably gonna butcher this, but Jahani wants to buy Psycho. Psycho is an experimental chem made by the US military during the Great War for combat troops. It raises damage dealt and lowers damage received. It could possibly be some kind of adrenaline enhancement or the Captain America drug. Puff the Magic Dragon also sells MedX, which lowers damage received and whose real-world counterpart is morphine. Here's a bit of trivia. MedX was originally called morphine, but that was changed because they wouldn't have been able to sell the game in Australia due to their drug laws. Mentats is another that Potts McGillicuddy sells, which boosts your intelligence and perception. It was apparently a pretty popular party chem before the war. It's not clear what the in real life counterpart is, but I think it's a combination of drugs. Maybe LSD and ecstasy? I don't know. This is just conjecture. Daddio is another party chem that boosts your intelligence and perception, but it also lowers charisma. According to the wiki, the chem was made popular by beatniks and is comparable to dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, which is a drug I've never heard of before doing this research. Finally, we move on to Excel. This is a highly experimental, highly addictive chem. It raises all stats and is not really akin to any real drug. It's got more in common with that fictional limitless drug, whatever it is. While it may be pretty powerful, it has the highest addiction rate of all, and becoming addicted to this will lower all stats. Let's move on to the more interesting people that Chems R Us sells to. The Russell family bought some Excel from Mr. Blue Sky, which they neglected to pay for. Rainbow Dash suspected that they might be using the chem on their dogs, and is not happy about that prospect. Captain Ecstasy then drops a clue as to where they live by writing about a safe that the Russells have. Spoiler alert, they live here. Here's another weird one. Anders is actually a kid, or more likely a teenage goth girl. Magic School Bus doesn't really sell the kids, but this was a strange case. For some reason, instead of drugs, she wanted a crap load of blood packs. For what purpose is anyone's guess, but she was rich, so it didn't really matter. Finally, we come to Duchesne, an underwear model that is, quote, beautiful, intelligent, and totally weird. She buys a ridiculous amount of stim packs. Stim packs aren't like other chems. They mend injuries instantly, usually. It's your way of healing out in the wasteland. Now, what she wants them for is anyone's guess. Maybe she's a stunt person on the side. Might be some masochism thing. Or maybe she's a dominatrix and she uses them on her clients. Question of the episode. Does there being a drug lord in Pleasantville surprise you? Or did you expect it given the nature of this game? Well, that's my time. Remember, winners don't do drugs. Also, don't forget to like and share this video around to help this channel grow. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to listen to some weird music and smell colors.